Well, welcome everyone to another workshop here at the Test Camp. This is Test Prep Science, and we're going to discuss how learning and practicing test skills will empower your test confidence. And those of you joining us live online, we wish you could be here with us in person, but you're welcome to contribute your comments anytime, and we'll include as many as possible here in the discussions. And if you join us directly through the Test Camp YouTube channel on demand, of course, you can pause or restart or replay that video anytime. Again, this workshop is in the Test Prep series, which focuses on single subjects for standardized tests. Now, the Test Skills series, that's great for people who are just getting started at the Test Camp. That combines subjects and helps everyone become a better all-around test taker, a skilled test taker. And if you want to learn more about teaching, the Future Educators program provides that opportunity over at that training site. All right, you likely know by now that around here the motto is prepare, practice, perform. Everyone who has successfully completed the training has passed their test and remarkably have improved their scores. How is that possible? Well, because test taking is a skill which requires practice, and this is the place people come to learn and practice those testing skills. You combine the knowledge with the skills, you get the confidence, the scores go up. To prepare here at the Test Camp means understanding yourself and understanding the test. So you need to take an honest assessment of how well you know the test content. That's what usually they talk about in the schools. But what they don't have time to do is attend to your testing skills. That's where you need to be honest. Improve your testing skills. So we'll start by learning the test blueprint. Those of you who participated in the other workshops, you know that the blueprint provides pretty much all the information you need to understand a test. And assessing your knowledge of the blueprint is the first indicator of how well you're going to perform on a test. If you can understand the test, you're on the way to doing better on it, right? You need to know the content, you need to know the rules. Now, this can also be a good first step to creating what we call My Study Plan. And this is used by the college students also. It includes reviewing and studying test content. This plan also can guide you through the test skills training. Now, our first step here today, though, in this workshop is to identify the types of science questions you can expect to encounter on a standardized test. Now, not the question format. We know that most questions on standardized tests are multiple choice. We're going to identify the science competencies on which the questions are built. And here's how we isolate each competency in our individual quizzes over in the training center. Taking quizzes based on each of these competencies will provide you instant feedback and point you in the direction to review and study. No more guesswork. You'll know exactly where to go. Let's take a closer look at each competency, beginning up there at the top with nature of science. According to the test information guides out there for standardized tests, the skills related to this competency include understanding theories and laws, experiments that lead to better understanding of those theories and laws, and the effects science has on society and culture. All right, here's a sample question. Now let's see how many honest people we have here. Raise your hand if you started here by reading up in what we call the STEM first. How many people did that? All right, good. We got a lot of honest people here. Raise your hand if you started here at the answer set. Okay, you did that, so can you tell us why? I'll repeat it for the folks listening in on the recording. Okay, so you learned this strategy in the other workshops, right? So what did we say? How does that help you on the test? Because you become focused in the moment, right? You're looking for the question, you're looking at the competency. Right, very good. Thank you for remembering that. All right, so let's look at another sample question. Start down there in the answer set. Dependent, observed, independent, controlled. All right, we know already that's probably going to be talking about an experiment, and there it is right up there in the top. Okay, one more sample question. Starting this time, we're going to start right here only in the answer set. Okay, and you can see how that's a nature of science question. The second competency is physical science. The knowledge you need to know to demonstrate on this test is related to the physical sciences of matter, the properties of matter and how matter changes, the knowledge of energy, the categories of energy represented on test questions like chemical, electrical, and mechanical energy. So let's look at a sample question. So this is an example of what type of question? Right, physical, okay, but matter, exactly. It's asking about matter. Very good. All right, how about another question? Let's see what we have here. Again, starting down here in the answer set. I even see chemistry right there in the stem, right? So we know that this is physical science. How about this next one? Can you tell by just looking at the answer set again? What's the concept going to be? I think you've got it. It's about matter and mass. So another physical science question. One more of these. All right, is this a physical science question? Who can tell me why? Do you mind? Right over here. Why do you think? Because it's energy, right. And what kind of energy are we talking about here? Electrical energy. Very good. Yeah, we're on a roll here. Okay, so we're off to the third competency, which is earth science. And we're going to take some time for you to work together there at the tables. You decide what might be asked about earth science. So what are some of the concepts? Make a list of some of the concepts that might be covered on a test about earth science. And we'll compare our lists when we come back as a group. Hey, those of you joining us today live online, thanks for being here. Share your thoughts. We're going to include them in the discussion. And if you're joining us on demand by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this might be a great time for you to go ahead and pause the recording. Test your knowledge about this competency, earth science. We'll be here when you return and when you restart that video. Yep, all right, here we go. A lot of good ideas we have about this competency, earth science, and how it might be represented on your test. Everybody have your list ready? All right, let's see if you match what we have up here. The first area we had was geology. Did you have this? A lot of people had this. Ology. What is ology? The study of, okay, the study of the geo, in this case, the study of the earth, right? So more specifically, the physical structure of the earth and its history. Another concept is atmosphere, the blanket of gas that surrounds the earth. Yes, go ahead. Yes, I did too. Think about it. Atmosphere is not about space; it's actually about the Earth. But I'm with you. At first I thought the same thing. Can you imagine what other questions might look like in this area? Now that you know atmosphere is a physical science, or excuse me, an Earth science. All right, the different spheres, right? Like lithosphere. What's another one? Biosphere. There you go. Okay, so the next concept. Now we're all talking about Earth science here. Is transfer of energy. So who's got an example out there? Where do you transfer energy? Out there. Solar panels, perfect example. What are you transferring? Energy from the sun into electric power. There you go. Wow, all right, we're in a good shape here. That was earth science. So let's look at some sample questions. Here's the first one. Start down there in the answer set. All right, easy to tell. This is earth science, right? The study of geology. There you go. Another sample question. Atmosphere. Right. Okay, that's not the answer. That's the type of question. Right. Okay. And one more. I think we've got one more of these, maybe two. There, I see the word transfer right up there in the stem. You might also be aware of another type of earth science question that we've added recently. How would you describe this question if you had to describe it in just one word? Look down there at the bottom first. Okay, what's the main idea here? Yes, go ahead over here. Sustainability. Very good. Anything else? Conservation. Yep, I see conservative in there. Conservation. Recycling. Good. So be on the lookout for a couple of these on all the tests now too. These are all related to earth science, right? Geology, atmosphere, and the transfer of energy. Okay, that takes us to the next competency, which is space science. And the main concepts in this competency are sun, earth, and moon, solar system, and space exploration. So again, atmosphere has to do with earth science. Yeah, I know, me and you. All right, let's take a look at some examples. Here's one. Easy to tell that that is a space science question. Starting down there in the answer set, Big Bang, TV show, Milky Way, candy bar, solar system, universe. Okay, so you can see in these, each one of these, space exploration, the test questions were not only built on science, but more specifically on space science. So before we go any farther, we've done nature of science, physical science, earth, and space. Are there any questions related to the competency so far? Okay, yes, over here. I'll repeat the question. Yes, good question. So when you go to take a test, you're not very likely to take an earth science test. Maybe, but when you're taking these standardized tests, these are all mixed together. Great question. We do have separate quizzes we'll talk about, but probably on your test they're all going to be mixed together and randomized. Right. All right, so the next science competency then is life science. Like we mentioned earlier, what one word might be used to represent life science? Yes, biology. And now this might be the closest word. However, this competency has the most wide-ranging set of science concepts. So let's take some time again for you to work together and decide what concepts might be included in life science. You know, what were the test writers told to write about? And before you start your list, I'm going to try to get you started here. For example, characteristics. See, it's right up here. Yeah, up here on the board. So the test writers had to write questions based on the characteristics of life, how we better understand the plant and animal kingdoms. We create names for them, labels, that sort of thing. All right, so your turn. What other areas of life science would be on a science test? Discuss this at your tables. We'll come back and we'll compare your list with ours. All right, thanks again for those of you joining us today live online for sharing your thoughts, and we're going to include them here in the discussion period. And if you're joining us on demand by the Test Camp YouTube channel, this is another good opportunity to go ahead and pause that recording and test your knowledge of life science. And we'll be here when you return and restart the video. Okay, we're back up here. This is going to be a little difficult. Let's see how many of you came up with these. The second one was classifications, like kingdoms, species, that sort of thing. Okay. We also have evolution. How many people had, let's go back to classifications. How many of you had classifications? How many had evolution? Okay, only a couple of groups. That makes sense, right? Okay. Did anyone say life cycles? Nobody said life cycles. Oh, hang on. Okay, so you said the developmental stages of growth. Okay, so you had this one. Okay. Let's look at a couple more here. Cell functions. Do you remember the three main cell functions? Yeah, we get into that in the specifics over at the training sites. And the last concept of it is environment. Yes. All right, and everybody had this one, I bet. Pretty much. Your group had it, your group had it. Can you describe it? What are we talking about environment for science? How plants and animals interact with their surroundings. Couldn't have said it better. That's perfect. So let's take a look at some sample questions that represent life science. Starting down there at the bottom. All right, cell science. Let's do another one. Mushrooms, mold, plants, yeast. These are all life science. Heredity, DNA, traits, genetics. All right, so here they are, the competencies used by professional test writers to build your science tests. So here's the question then. Which would you choose? Let's say they told you you could take your science test, but it would all be on one of these competencies. So say a 40 question test, but it would be all earth science or all life science. Which would you choose? Which is your strongest area right now? Which is your most challenging area? And does that have any implications for how you might study for a test like this? Talk it over at your tables, then we'll discuss your preferences as a group. All right, again, if you joined us today live online, thank you again for sharing your thoughts. We're going to include them this one last time up here in the discussion. And if you're watching this pre-recorded workshop, pause the recording and do a little self-reflection. Where are your strong areas? Where are your challenges? Which one would you choose? And how do you prepare for a standardized test? We'll come back and join. Anytime you want to come back, come and join us. Just restart the video. We are back up here. We had some interesting discussions about the strategies to review and study for standardized tests. I think I'm going to summarize for those who are listening in. We said there's no right way for someone to study. It's kind of an individual thing, but we do agree that we do need to review and study before we were to go take these standardized tests. Sometimes they're called high stakes tests. So how do we start to do this? Well, you've already started to prepare for these tests because you joined the workshop today. You've gained a lot of knowledge. I hope it was worth your time. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. You gained knowledge about what to expect. Another way to prepare is to select the tools you might need along the way. The best and most reliable resources for guaranteeing your success. You can expect to see this sign along the way when you're in your test skills training site over there. There's going to be encouraging messages that come from those who've gone before you. And in this case, the message is avoid spending your time and money on expensive resources. You just don't need them. Commercial webinars are a good example. Avoid paying for free test information and strategies. It's free. You don't need to pay someone to tell you about them. We did some of that here today. It's all free. Expensive tutors and tutoring companies, they might be an option for more challenging tests. Overpriced study guides are out there too. They're sold for profit. So a lot of people trying to get money that's not necessary. Many study guides are available either free or inexpensive. And of course, a more effective and inexpensive resource is textbooks. If you're serious about this and you want to get better, now that you know the competencies being tested, you can use textbooks to review and study the test content. Yes, right back over here. I'll repeat it for the folks listening in. A good question. So how difficult are these tests? Maybe you think about it in terms of grade level. Most of them only go up through middle grades, very seldom, unless they're single subject tests. Say if you're taking a math test, for example, an overall math test, generally just up through, say, Algebra 1. If you're thinking about that, 8th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Right, that's a great question. Now, not so if you're taking a chemistry test, that's different, right? But we're talking about on the general standardized test. Yeah, that's why you can do this on your own, as long as you have the test skills. And also in the My Resources area over at the test site, training site, expect to find the most popular and up-to-date tools for your success too. See, so these are all free. So besides the textbooks, there's a lot of places that are out there. They're either free or very inexpensive. So the recommendation from those who've gone before you, invest time and money not on the resources, but on yourself. Practice your test skills. Expect to gain confidence and personal independence. Your pass provides admission to all of these training areas, and you can see up there at the top, one is called My Test, and this is where we started. This is the activity that helps you check your understanding of the test blueprint and everything we've talked about here today. You can even take a pre-test before you start the training. This is the test camp problem-solving system. The first step to finding the correct answer is to identify the type of question by the ding, 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 competency. Right, so we did some of that today already. Then, as I mentioned before, there's quizzes and tests. They provide an opportunity to practice your test skills while you're assessing your test content knowledge. And the quizzes are going to be based on each one of the competencies. Yes, go ahead. Question over here. Yes, every time you take a quiz, can you hear me back there? Every time you take one of these quizzes, the questions and answers change. They change randomly because they're pulled from a huge bank of test questions that were created just for this. Yes, just for this project. All right, good question. And once you're finished there, there's even a combined quiz down there. You see down there at the bottom? That gets you ready for the practice test and for the post test. And they'll have features on those like you can expect on test day when you have to go and take these on a computer. And as you complete the training activities, you can earn points towards a professional test certificate. And that's going to guarantee that your score is going up and guarantee your success on the tests. So then expect to perform with confidence that comes from the knowledge and skills that you've earned during the training. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. There's no better time than now to empower your test confidence.